I'm Candie. I'm an addict. I want to say thank you for the growing opportunity that you are providing for me right now. And yes, I am a chatterbox normally. My children gave me that nickname, and I hoped it wouldn't stick, but it found it's kind of true. So, I have been clean for 3,074 days. And while I share my message, I hope some of you who don't really care can do some math. So I didn't think of that trick. I'm borrowing it from someone else, trust me. So, I was born in, I was born in 81 to two people who had no business having children at that time in their life. And, and it ended in separation. And then along came my stepdad, I start out with my childhood because it's what affected me in my trying to find God as a child. So I had a very abusive stepdad, and it was a pretty shitty childhood. I mean, I was the kid who came to school with the scars and the fresh stitches, and where they had to shave the spot and to do the stitches, and I'll tell you, I wasn't a very happy girl. I took it out on others. I was not one for stuffing a lot of things. I was one for acting out in pretty violent ways, and and it kind of followed me. But as I was growing up, I remembered the only thing I'd pray, because I didn't have a problem with God. They kind of grained that in. You either believe or you're going to go to hell. So I believe. Okay, I believe. And there I set forth with praying. God, please, not another beating. Please help get my dad to stop losing his temper. All of this mess, and and it felt like it fell on deaf ears because it didn't stop anything. And then I go to church, and then I kind of wonder, well, what's wrong with me? He's punishing me. Because I'm looking around at everyone else, and I'm thinking, you have perfect lives. You little, you're going to get it. And that was most of the kindergarten classmates that I had in the first grade and second grade, third grade. And about fourth grade, I slowed down. I figured, those guys kind of look cute, and they don't respond very well when you're trying to beat them up. So, that was my childhood, pretty much. I didn't get along with others. I had very few friends that could put up with me, and would put up with me, and I kind of liked it that way. My first experience with drugs was shots of tequila. I mean, I had a dysfunctional family. They thought it was cute, and I was determined not to make a face, so they just keep giving you shots to try to make your face. And I thought that was cool, and I kind of liked the way it made me feel, but I didn't put it all together. But I knew the people I loved most in my life, and the people that I hated the most, but still loved them, they all did something. They partied in somewhat way. So those were the people I looked up to. Growing up. And, so when my mother separated from my stepfather, a lot of those things didn't just clear up like, that easily. I had a lot of things that I had to look at. And old comforts, and it was familiar. So, I had my first bout. I had alcohol poisoning at like 14, and that was a lovely experience. They were, and I did it out of spite and out of anger, and for a while I thought, well, I don't have a problem, and I made the big promise I'll never do it again, and that didn't last very long. So I kind of bumped along, and I usually stayed out of trouble. For the most part, I stayed out of trouble as a kid, I found that I didn't like consequences, And so I just avoid them, and I try to blend in as best I can. I'll blend in. And that's what I did. And it helped keep out of trouble, and I never got busted. So it was pretty easy to get away with what I'm doing, because for the most part on the outside it looked good. I got a job at 15. I was willing to work, and I worked often, and I liked that. I liked hanging out with older people. First of all, they could buy my drug of choice, and I loved that. That's great. And they weren't doing stupid shit and getting busted. The people who were doing the same things at my age, they were getting busted, and I didn't want to get busted. I was pretty sure that was, I didn't want to deal with the consequences. So, I was always looking for something to fix me, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. But I was getting pretty fed up with praying to this God that he ain't doing nothing for me. And so, I didn't want to not believe, because I was too scared not to believe, but I didn't have, there was no relationship there. It was just an empty space. And, so I tried, as I got older, I started exploring drugs a little, very little. I found, I'm for quantity versus quality, So I found my drug of choice to be kind of the most, I could buy a lot of this for least amount of money, and hey, that works. So that's how I made that determine. And, after a while, it stopped being fun. And I don't remember it ever being fun. But, I realized it wasn't, I don't know if it's the partying, it's not really working, so maybe I need another boyfriend. So, I went through the rounds of trying that out, and got stomped one good time and decided to marry the next good man that I was able to get. So in the 11th grade, I married this man who is my ex-husband is a good man. He doesn't party. His response when I asked him if he ever did marijuana, he said, "No, it's illegal." And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? But, it seemed like he had his stuff together, and, and he was committable. I wasn't going to try to commit somebody that's not committable. So he was willing to participate in the insanity, and we decided to get married. And eventually, after becoming the female version of him, it didn't work. I still had that hole in my gut that it wasn't working anymore. And I'm starting to look around and thinking, well, maybe the grass is greener somewhere else. And then I'm like, well, divorce really sucks. That's morally bad. People go to hell for having divorces. All the insanity with that. And I'm not going to have a divorce. So maybe if we have a kid, I won't feel so empty inside. Because I'll have a kid to take care of, and I'll have something to love, and he'll need me, and all those things that are lacking in my life. And it'll help me, live with this man that I no longer have any use for, and he's getting in the way of my partying. So we had a kid, and I graduated 6 weeks pregnant with, this what was soon to become my beautiful, strong-willed redhead. I got exactly what I asked for. And about 6 months after he was born, my ass fell off. I had enough. The kid wasn't working. I love him to pieces, and I felt that much more like crap because, I couldn't be the mom that I felt I needed to be. I wasn't good enough. I still had this hole in my gut. I wanted to go party. Anytime I go party, then I'd feel like a crap mom. It was a vicious cycle. And then he was getting in my way. You can't do that. You're a mom now. I'm like, I got a babysitter. What do you mean I can't go party? I got a babysitter. I'm being a responsible parent. So, that really, it came up to my 21st birthday, and I was going to get old enough to buy my favorite choice. And he was in my way, so I decided, you're out of here, buddy. I've had enough, And of course, that's not what I seen it as. I seen it as he's controlling, He's telling me how to live my life. He's and he just doesn't value my opinions at all. Well, never mind. Eventually, when I did a 4-step, I found that all along I encouraged him to make all the decisions. I, wanted him to do all the thinking for me, because if anything went wrong, I'm not responsible for that. So never mind that part, and it took a while to get there. But so I divorced him, and that's when it really went sideways. Very quickly I found, even though I'm working 40 hours a week, I have no money. And I don't have any money. I never had any money. I'm always broke. I'm paying the bills, and then I have nothing left. What I had left, I was partying it off. And no time, and I was tired. I got in trouble for a domestic dispute because guess what? The anger issues didn't get any better as an adult. And my sister got in the way of my using. And I ended up beating the snot out of her. And then I was looking at domestic abuse charges because we were living together. And I never thought I would be like that, I hated my stepdad. And as in the cycle of abuse, you either become the abuser or the abused. And I wasn't going to be the abused, so I tend to be very abusive. I took after my stepdad, who I didn't necessarily want to be, but I didn't want to get my ass kicked anymore. So you're either him or you're not. So I worked at, being as tough and mean as I had to be. And that's when I admitted I needed help. It gotten to the point I had paranoia. My mom was wired when I called her. I called her to ask for help. The funny thing is I never had anything on me. Never. I never carried anything, but for some reason, every white vehicle was government out to get me. Every helicopter over the head was out to get me. So when I finally called and asked for help, my mom was wired and trying to get me. And I figured, well, I have nothing to lose, and what are they going to do? I'm asking for help. So it's kind of like, whatever. I give up. I'm throwing in the towel, and I don't have anything on me. So she sent me to counseling, doing what, parents trying to help, have no clue about what I'm dealing with. And I started seeing a head doctor downtown or across town who I thought I was there for anger problems. I was willing to admit maybe I might have problems with my anger, but it has nothing to do with my partying, because after all, I still have my job. I still have my license, my driver's license. I have a roof over my head, never mind that it wasn't really because I was paying rent. And, I still have my kid. So it has nothing to do with the partying, but maybe I have this anger problem because, the police had pictures that I couldn't deny. That's a mess. And I did it. So I'm so glad that my disease had me so clouded, my head was so foggy and so messed up that when I went to this guy, I seriously thought I was there for my anger problems, and he turned out he was a drug counselor. But that's how, cloudy my head was. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't string thoughts together. I couldn't really have a whole lot of conversations except for, how to get more dope. And if you didn't have any, then, it must be, I don't need to talk to you too much. So I had lost all that. And I started seeing him, and he started suggesting some of these 12-step meetings. Why don't you go to some of these 12-step meetings? And narcotics was one, and there was another one. And I'm like, well, I think it's a waste of my time, but to prove you wrong, I'll go, so you'll get the hell off my back, and we'll get to the real issue of it. It's because I'm having daddy issues, I got anger issues. Let's get to that. So I started going to the meetings, and then I'd listen, but I'm like, God, you guys are sick. And that's not me. I didn't do that, and I didn't do that, and that was easy to do in another place, but in another place it was like, I was so numb from the drugs I couldn't feel when people were sharing their emotions. I didn't feel that in the meetings for a long time. So I kept going to the head doctor, and he kept saying, well, keep going. And so I kept going. And I got to the point where I had a head full of dope and I had a head full of meetings. And whenever I go to get high, there's them people sitting around the rooms talking about blah, blah, blah. And you know what? The dope hadn't worked for a real long time, So I was like, well, I don't know. And I don't know how it happened. I woke up one morning and realized I didn't use any drugs. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Well, maybe I should give that little hokey program a little chance, because I'm so big-headed. I mean, my ego said that I had all the answers, and I'm going to figure this out. So that's when I started going to the meetings, and I'm going to figure out a loophole, because I'm good at loopholes. And I'm good at taking a rule and stretching it to the point of close to breaking, but not close enough. I mean, I had it mastered. And so that was my goal. I started attending the meetings. I started putting some days together, because I'm like, I wonder how long I can go. How long can I go? Seriously, and I can always go back out and use, so, whatever. So I kept doing that, and I didn't give it too much thought, because I could put a week together, because I could control my using. That was part of the, why I said, I'm not an addict, because I party once a week, I'll party once a week. Never mind that usually that 1 day a week sucked, and eventually I needed 2 days a week, and it went from there. But I still wasn't as bad as you guys. I'm not twitching like you guys. I'm fine. So I went to the meetings, and and I started hearing about the steps, and they read literature in one of the meetings that I went to frequently. So I started, actually hearing things, and I really didn't mean to. And then I got the big idea that, hey, I know, I'll take the basic text home, and I will read it. I'm going to read it. And man, I did. I studied this thing and it was an internship. Now, I didn't study shit when I went to college, tried that. But I'm going to figure this out. I was on a mission. I'm going to find the loophole that the rest of you idiots didn't find. And I'm going to find it, and then I'm going to rewire my head, and I'm going to go use successfully. And it's going to be great, because I'm going to figure it out, because you guys just don't have it. And I'm good at figuring shit out. I'm a problem solver here. So I started studying that basic text. I mean, reading it, I'm paying attention, I'm listening to the step 1, and I'm like, yeah, I got that. Yeah, I got that. And then step 2, I don't know about that one. Maybe I don't need it. I don't need 3. 4, yeah, well, when it says moral inventory with someone else, I'll look in the mirror or something. But, I can do this on my own. And I did it that way on my own. And about 30 days later, I'm on that newcomer high. I'm riding the pink cloud, and I'm loving it. Man, I'm loving it. I'm going to work, and my coworkers are like, I wish you'd shut the fuck up about those key tags, that key tag. And I get the next one, and they'll be like, shut up about those stupid meetings. And, these are people I used to use with. I got high with my coworkers, so they didn't appreciate me coming up in there and like, yay, look at my key tag. But I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll quit when I want to. I'll quit this program when I want to. And I just might tomorrow. I don't know. I don't care. Today, I'm going to go and play the hokey program, figure the shit out, and use successfully. Well, the pink cloud wear off, and I come crashing down and hit reality. And life on life's terms started happening, and it sucked. And I didn't have a sponsor, and I knew that the using, it wasn't working anymore, but I think I need help with this. So I started asking, I asked 3 different guys at 3 different times to be my sponsor. This was in the other fellowship because that's where my true problem is with that other drug. So I went to them, and they kept pointing out this one woman who I took one look at her nails. I took a look at her hair's done up good, her makeup, she looks good, and I'm thinking, fuck no, she's competition. And each one of them, 3 different times, and I asked him, one day I'd ask one, and he said, no, how about that girl over there? And I'd be like, no. And then I went to the second one on another day. You know, I didn't tell them I'm asking around and whatnot. And they were like, no, but what about that girl over there? And they pointed the same girl 3 different times. I'm like, by that time, I'm rebellious. I'm like, fuck you all. I got out my NA meeting schedule with the numbers on it, went through and said, all right, I know she's full of crap. She's full of crap, and 3 guys already turned me down, so I'm not even going to go there with them. And I got to this one girl who was pretty, she looked like she could kick a hole in my head if I needed it. And she was pretty married and pretty committed, and I didn't really want her man, so I think she'll work. So I called her up, and I wanted her to fix me now. And damn it, she didn't. And I whined, and we talked and whatnot, but she did not fix me in one phone call. And you know, it had to come down to some steps, and she beat my ass through the steps, you know? You work the steps. And by that time, I was so sick of me and myself that I was willing to do whatever she had said to do. So it didn't take too much pushing me through the steps. I'm on it, because I got so much relief out of step 1. Give me step 2. I mean, I'm having a God issue, but we'll get there. And I had to undo a lot of that faulty wiring that I had. I had a lot of knowledge. I gained a lot of knowledge growing up going to church, and that was fine. But I had no idea how to have a relationship. You know, I have these issues, you know. I went through, you know, if God loves me so much, why did I have to go through such a shitty childhood? I didn't deserve that. I didn't do anything. You know, 3 and 4, being beat unconscious, where's God? So, you know, we had to start from the very basic of, you know, God loves you and he doesn't make junk. And I'm not your God, so pick one. You got to pick something. And I gathered everyone's and used what I could and kind of explored that. And, you know, got started with that stuff. About that time, I started trying to develop some new spiritual principles, like honesty and open-mindedness and willingness. And I was starting to practice that with my sponsor. And I'm a pretty honest person, as long as you don't ask me about certain things. We're good. We're good to go. You know, and if I can get away with it, then I'm an honest person, you know. And I started hanging around with anyone who was going to the meetings. If you were going to the meeting, I'm tagging along with you. I had no hobbies of my own. You know, I got my using buddy, we went biking all the time. Well, guess what? It lost its fun, clean, because we'd have to stop. He'd have to pack his bowl or roll his joint or whatever he's got to do, and there I stood with my cigarette, waiting on him to get his high, and we go biking again, you know? Eventually, you know what? It's not that I felt better than him or anything like that, and I just felt like, you know, I'm tired of having to stop what I'm doing so that he can track down his high and then continue the biking trip. You know, so I was starting to, you know, our interest was kind of there, but it wasn't anymore. So I started hanging around with other people in the meetings, you know, and there was this man that when I first walked in the rooms, I seen him and I said, that's a grumpy asshole, and I'm not going anywhere near him. So he was talking about training for the Tough Man contest, and I'm like, I got anger issues. That sounds great. I'll train with you. And so I'm like, I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to have an honest, platonic relationship right here. And he's married, so I'm trying to practice honesty and open-mindedness and willingness, and I'm going to try to practice this honesty, and I'm going to leave this woman's man alone. And I started going to meetings with him and sparring and whatnot. And at that honest attempt of having a platonic relationship, I tripped all over his ass. And so it didn't work out so good. As far as platonic friendships go, it just didn't work out. And my sponsor said, no, don't do it. And then I was in with that, you know, internal turmoil of conflict of what I know is not right and I'm going against my spiritual principles. You know, my newly ones, and I don't really trust them all that well. I don't really want to follow them, and I'm not. Fuck that. I'm not giving them my tricks just because I just got clean. It hurt. It hurt a lot. And that's what I found. I didn't have the drugs to numb it, and I couldn't deny it, and it was hard to justify it. And then I had my sponsor, who's very gently not getting in the way of a hormone, but at the same time pointing out, you know, you're in the wrong, and this is going to hurt. And it did, because it hurt. And I tried to break that off, and it worked for a little bit. And I continued working steps. I stayed clean through the things that, you know, I see a lot of people get high over. You know, doing things, you know, it was not comfortable doing things that I knew, just my principles, my newly ones, was just not working real good. You know, it wasn't matching, my actions wasn't matching up with the insides, and it was painful. And it didn't have to be. But I stayed clean. You know, I kept going to the meetings. I kept working the steps, and I stayed clean through it. It wasn't ideal, you know, but I just couldn't quite leave that alone, and I ended up pregnant. And I say this because, you know, my concept of a higher power was pretty much come and go, you know, and I didn't really trust him a whole lot, and I hadn't really turned anything real big. I thought, you know, getting clean, turning that over to him, I hadn't really done that. I'm just doing this on my own. And so I hadn't really turned anything over to him yet. When I turned up pregnant, and I haven't graduated, and I'm living in low-income apartments, and I'm working on trying to become self-sufficient and being able to provide for my child, and here I'm going to be pregnant, and I got 2 kids. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? You know, so I explored my options, and I prayed. I prayed. And he gave me the answer, you know. He gave me, it became painfully obvious through someone else that delivered the message that I'm going to have this kid. There's just no other way for me. And I said, you know I got myself in this shit, but God, you're going to have to help me. And I turned it over to him. And I didn't have a clue how it was going to work out, you know. And that was my first experience with the third step, really turning some heavy stuff over and not having a clue how it was going to work out. And, you know, at the time, I couldn't see what direction he was going to take me in, and I didn't know what was on the end of that path. And it looked like, you know, it was just going to suck, you know, and it did. Going through that. I say today, my blonde one, my youngest son, he was my blessing in disguise, because I didn't see it as a blessing, you know. And now today, I'm telling you what, he's incredible, you know. You know, along the way, you know, I got involved with service work early, and my sponsor at the time was like, Candie, you want to think about that before you do that. You know, you want to think about that. And she knew I have commitment problems. And she's like, you really need to think about that. But, you know, that good-looking guy with Tom, he said, no, they need a secretary. Region needs a secretary. And I'm like, well, what do you got to do? Type? I can do that. I can't spell, but I can type. And they're desperate, okay, because they're desperate. They need someone now. Now they need someone. So I'm like, I could do that, because I knew that through my using, I always stayed on the outside of groups, so that if I needed to walk or bolt, it was easy enough to leave. You know, I don't want to have too much responsibility. I don't want too many people depending on me, because I don't want that kind of stress. I don't want that kind of mess on me. But I plunged into Narcotics Anonymous through service work, you know. And so I volunteered to, you know, I came to Region and said, hey, I'll do this. I can do secretary, you know, show me what to do. I can do that. And I was so amazed that woman was like, wow, this is great. She's going to do it. And she was ready to just hand it to me right then. And then there was the rest of the room like, ooh, how much clean time do you have? Ooh, And she's like, no, this'll work. So I'm like thinking, how dare you assholes say I don't have enough clean time to do this? I'm here to do it. I can do it. And I'm at the same time, I'm like, yeah, that's right. She's in my corner. Yeah. So fucking sign the. Here. I am. And so she shadowed me for a minute, and I got started in service work, and I didn't know what they were talking about for like a long time. I'm like, can you explain this to me, because I don't know why. And then they'd have to tell me about the history and what's going on, and I'd be like, well, I don't really have an opinion right now because I don't know what's going on, but I knew I needed to commit to Narcotics Anonymous, or I'm going to be on the edge, and I'm gonna go back to using. So I stayed right in the mess of it, and service work looked like a good mess to be in. So there I was, and I kept coming back, and I kept doing service work, and I kept stomping on through the steps, and my first sponsor moved away. And she was really the only person that I called, other than, the good-looking guy, for all the wrong reasons. But and that's when she moved. I was bumfuddled. So I had to actually talk to other women in my area. I'm like, I had to actually reach out and build a bigger base than what I had. And she had been telling me that for a long time. You need to build a bigger foundation. You need more people in your recovery. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that later. And I'm just fine. As long as you answer your phone, I'm fine. And, and when she moved all the way to Florida, I knew I suck at long-distance relationships. I suck at it. So I got another sponsor. And that started the process of getting and firing several and many sponsors, but I knew I always needed one, so I always had one. And eventually, at I think 6, I don't know, I had 6 years clean or something, and I was needing another sponsor because it's not working out with these other ones. One stopped coming to meetings, and that was kind of scary, and the one in Florida, I kept trying to use her, but that was just not working out really good. And someone suggested, how about Barbara? And I'm like, Barbara? Well, I know Barbara, but I don't know Barbara. Well, what the hell? What do I got to lose? How much? She got time. She had a buttload of time. So I'm like, I'm in good hands. Sure, okay. And so I called her up and asked her to be my sponsor. And it's, I'm really grateful for that, that it was grained in, that I taught myself that I couldn't sponsor myself. I needed a sponsor, and, I preferred someone who knew what the hell they were talking about and would call me on my crap, too. I needed that. And along the way, I've picked up sponsees, and then I got fired and all kinds of stuff, and sponsees are such blessings. They are really blessings. Mine have always, I'll be going through some of this just stupid stuff wrapped up in my own head, despite making plenty of meetings, working plenty of steps, and keeping in regular contact with my sponsor. But I'll still be wrapped up in Candyland. And here I'll have some sponsee call me with something like, I don't know, something going on that's insane, and just pull my head out of my own ass at the snap of the fingers, And it's amazing, because I didn't believe my sponsor when she first told me that I helped her more than she probably helped me. I'm like, what kind of crap are you trying to get me to believe? And then when I actually got my very own sponsees, how scary is that? I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to fix you? That was the first step all over again, I'm powerless over someone else, and my life is unmanageable because, I'm trying to control someone else, And so I learned a lot about powerlessness, because I would see things, and then I would think, oh, man, that's a bad idea. You shouldn't be doing that. Just like my sponsor, when I was making and screwing up and doing what Candie needed to do, I didn't listen to her. And I'm so grateful because when I think about it, she really didn't know what was best for me at that time. Because since then, I married that man, and I have managed to not cheat on him and to not have an emotional affair with anyone. So if you think I'm not sleeping with them. I'm just calling them on a daily basis. That will fuck up a relationship real quick. Talk about killing the intimacy. All of a sudden, I'm bored with the boyfriend. Well, no shit. I just lined it up with the next one. I just got to clear out the old one. And, Narcotics Anonymous taught me through working the steps how to be the wife that I wanted to be, the mom that I wanted to be, the daughter, the aunt. You guys have taught me so much. I just have to be willing to look at it, willing to actually take a look at myself and do the work. And I'm grateful for it, because when they say lost dreams awaken, I thought, well, great, you'll get the job of your dream, and wheels that you like, whatever. Okay, I don't really care about those things. The things I wanted most in my life was healthier relationships. I want a career, but that's not what my higher power has planned for me, because he hasn't put it in my path right now. Right now I'm a housewife, and that's not what I had planned when I was growing up. I was going to go do something big and pay the bills, and I'm going to get me a little house bitch to take care of the kids. Because when he needs slapped around, I'll do that for him. And then I'll go get bread and do that stuff because I'm not good at nurturing. Well, you know what? Recovery's taught me how to be what I didn't think I could ever be. And I didn't think I'd ever want to be. So that was definitely a dream that wasn't even lost. I didn't even have it. And here I am. I'm so, I can now give back to my community because of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm passionate about children who go through abuse. And I've found a way to work in that area, that I'm keeping my recovery in the center, but being able to volunteer and helping and advocating for children who are going through abuse. Because my thing that I hated when I was a kid, people look at me like, oh, you poor thing, when I tell them, and when they find out what's going on, because I wasn't going to tell them shit. But, when they find out, then they look at me with those sympathy eyes. I hated that. Nothing enraged me more than sympathy eyes. And when I got to Narcotics Anonymous, I didn't get sympathetic eyes. And I didn't want that. I couldn't handle hugs. I couldn't handle love at any point, because I'm like, you're full of crap. What do you want? And so Narcotics Anonymous taught me how to love and how to be loved, and that it's okay, and I don't have to run from it. I don't get warm, fuzzy feelings with kumbaya activities. It makes me want to fight and lash out violently. So, knowing that I do like a good fight, I don't have to ignore that I like a good fight. I found a healthy place to do that, I participate in Tough Man contest for giggles. I won a few, lost a lot. But, these are things that I like to do, and I found a way to continue to still enjoy them. And even though, and I don't have to worry about the consequences. People, they sign up for it just like I did. I couldn't imagined, being able to continue. I thought that if I ever quit using drugs, I'd have to totally change, and I'll have to become one of those church people. And they're nice and all, but when I'm not sharing my insanity with them, because I did that one time. And I've been working some steps. I was going through, I locked up, I couldn't pray. I was so mad at God, I could not pray. So I decided, well, my sponsor's busy. I'll try this preacher. Because I started going back to church. I like going to church. I just can't, share the insanity in my head with them. So I need meetings to keep me spiritual, but I like going to church. I like the structure. So I went to the preacher and I told him, I said something to the line just like that. I feel so hurt and angry inside. I want someone else. I just want to beat someone until they feel what I'm feeling inside. And that preacher who's sitting from me to here scooted back. That's when it came. I'm and I didn't yell. I didn't cuss. I said it just like I just said it to you guys. I want someone to feel the pain that I'm feeling inside. I want them to feel it. And he scooted back. That's when I realized, you know what? I need Narcotics Anonymous. I need other addicts who have the same insane thinking. No matter how, good I feel or how I blend in good with society, because I'm telling you what, I'm doing a good job at blending in with society. People are pretty shocked when they find out I'm in the program. And, but I can't forget who it was that helped me become who I am today. And how I got here. And I trust them to a degree, but it's other addicts, going to meetings on a regular basis, even when I think I'm not getting anything out of the meeting. That has been the newest beautiful challenge for me, is sitting in the meeting, hearing someone share their complete insanity and finding a way to relate to it still today. Because no, I don't have the law looking down my neck, and I don't have those things, but I do have the feelings are still there, and I still go through that, and I don't want to forget that, the pain and the anguish that's going on the inside. So when they're sharing about the outside insanity, what am I really hearing in that voice? And that's the pain that's going on inside, and I don't miss that. I don't miss it. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful I'm an addict, and I'll tell you, because if I wasn't an addict, I'd just be another asshole without a clue how to work on me. And we all know society is full of plenty of assholes. We just wish they'd pick up and use and have a drug problem. So I'm grateful I'm an addict today, and I'm grateful you guys have helped me see how powerless I am over that. Thanks.